Welcome everyone to the information call for Learning Collaborative on evidence-based treatment for children with problematic sexual behavior. My name is Jimmy Whittyfield. I'm going to be hosting the call today, and I'll introduce myself a little bit more in just a moment. This call is brought to you through the Center on Child Abuse and Neglect at the University of Oklahoma Health Sciences Center, more importantly, through the Oklahoma Department of Human Services. We're very excited to have a number of people on the call today from across the state of Oklahoma, as well as participants from DHS and from our center here in the city. The project is made possible through the Department of Human Services, and we are very grateful that they, with some forethought and collaboration, found me to put a project within Oklahoma that we think is worthwhile, and I'll explain a little bit more later about that. It is, though, I think, relatively important for me to say that DHS may not agree with everything I say or do during the information call. They are funding the project, but by no means am I a representative of the department. So a round of applause to Keitha Wilson and DHS for making this project possible. 3 people currently involved through the Center on Child Abuse and Neglect with this project. My name is Jimmy Whittyfield, and if you're joining in front of a computer screen, you'll see my picture as I'm the only male pictured. I'm the training director for our Problematic Sexual Behavior Training and Technical Assistance Program. Provide TNTA to sites across the United States, Canada, and the UK, and provide additional technical assistance to other countries around the world. Is on the call, but is not feeling well, and so she's trying to save her voice. I may be trying to save her voice even more. I stood in the center. She's our Training and Technical Assistance Program Coordinator, and she is the glue that holds us together here in our center and our program. You'll most likely be receiving emails from Carrie in the future as the project progresses. Jane Sosky is a licensed child psychologist here in our center and a faculty member. Unfortunately, she was not able to be on the call today at a last minute. It arose for her, and she sends her and her hellos. Jane has been a part of CN and our PSB programs for a very long time, and is the director of what we do through training and technical assistance. So we are excited for her, of course, to be a part of this project. I have quite a sense of humor, so if you're joining in front of a computer screen, you just saw my picture like blow up on the screen because I'm really trying to develop some healthy self-esteem and make myself grander than what I really am. It is just more of a terrible sense of humor, so there might be some more of that peppered throughout the presentation. Are there people who are going to be involved in this Learning Collaborative project? Amanda Mitten is a licensed professional counselor at MI. We'll be primary clinical trainers. James Solowski has been joined by Trish Gardner to do senior leader training, which we'll explain later. Trish is Juris Doctorate and is faculty here as well. Trish is a recent or current, I can't remember which, president of the American Professional Society on the Abuse of Children, and comes with tremendous expertise. Others that support Carrie Schwab include Holly Salem. Trish also doubles as a business manager for us. She wears many hats. Of course, Keitha Wilson with the Department of Human Services. There are other people also involved at DHS, but has been our primary go-to person. And so as I need to know names of other people at DHS, potentially we will make sure you get that information. For today is a little packed, which is very characteristic of the work that I seem to do as a professional. We're to briefly talk about the Oklahoma project in the very beginning. It's been talking about who are children with problematic sexual behavior, talking about the evidence-based treatment that was developed here in Oklahoma, if you can believe it. And then we spend more time talking about the Learning Collaborative project that will happen in Oklahoma next steps for interested sites. We'll at the very end go over a list of key dates for you to make sure you get on your calendars as we move forward. I know that we do training and technical assistance across the United States and in other countries. We are funded by different federal agencies like the Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention. States have pulled together their own funding, like the state of New York, where we've done several learning collaboratives, the state of Missouri, and most recently we're getting ready to start learning collaboratives in the state of New Jersey and Maryland. With Oklahoma, we've not really grown the program or the model very well because our funding has been to train people outside of Oklahoma. There is another site trained in our school-age model, and that's the LaFleur County Children's Advocacy Network, the CC in Poto, Oklahoma. Our adolescent program here in Oklahoma City has trained a number of providers in an agency in Tulsa, Children and Families First, I believe. It is just us in Oklahoma City. And so really the goal for this project are to grow what we are doing across the country, grow it in Oklahoma, to really look at how we are managing, treating, and responding to children ages 7 to 12 with problematic sexual behavior, which could include illegal sexual behaviors, better helping them, or how we can better help them, the children that they've impacted through their behavior, or child victims, and their families. Our to do it is really multi-pronged. This Learning Collaborative project is part of a larger clinical treatment rollout of the evidence-based treatment, so wanting to train up to sites in the state of Oklahoma. And ideally, we're looking at basically the 4 corners of the state for PIT sites. With our program being in Oklahoma City, we thought creating this kind of network of 4 district sites, and then from there looking on how we can build capacity throughout the state. We're also going to be providing during this project a number of community-based presentations and agency-based presentations to raise awareness, increase community stakeholder buy-in, and really change the culture of Oklahoma to better help these kids. There are 2 to the funding that we have with the Department of Human Services, which includes a separate project, which is a work group to look at policies and procedures in the state of Oklahoma and how to better improve those policies and procedures around children with problematic sexual behavior, any available research. So goals for the project, we're to accomplish the Learning Collaborative by using structure developed out of Duke. Learning Collaboratives are training projects that really are geared to build capacity, build infrastructure, ways to improve the availability, access, and success implementation of evidence-based treatments for children and their families. It is pulling together not participating mental health organizations, but community partners like DHS, like the Office of Juvenile Affairs, Juvenile Bureau, local school systems, medical providers, social workers, etc. So we're looking at bringing everyone in together into a collaborative that programs can be established long-term and successfully. And talk just a moment about children with problematic sexual behavior. Is that all children deserve to be safe, all children deserve to be helped, and children deserve to be respected. All too often, when a child has problematic sexual behavior, we hear them referred to as sex offenders, monsters, pedophiles. We've heard of psychiatric nurses telling children no one should ever help them because of what they've done. Police detectives referring to children in foster care with problematic sexual behavior as monsters. And things that happened here in Oklahoma. It's what nationally and internationally because there's such fear attached to sexual behaviors, particularly when they're harmful and problematic. What we know about the research, and we'll talk some more about in a few slides, is that they're children first. Your children, my children, the children in your neighborhood, the grocery store, houses of worship, such teams that you see practicing on fields as you drive home. The kids first. The serious behavior behavior problem, so we're not negating that. But if we keep the child-first perspective and language, then we are really working together in the same way to help all children be safe and to be healthy. So I invite you to use people-first language. We refer to these children as children with problematic sexual behavior, not as offenders or perpetrators. And the research really suggests even that terms like juvenile sex offender lead to worse outcomes for these kids. So if we're all in agreement that we're here to help children, we're on the right foot. Problematic sexual behaviors, or PSB, are child-initiated behaviors that typically involve private parts. Think other body parts, giving someone the middle finger, use sexual language, hugging people when they don't want to be hugged, but doing that at levels that make problematic, right? And so these behaviors that have the potential to be physically harmful or physically harmful or cause emotional distress in other children. It does have sex laws, and sometimes the laws can tell us which behaviors are illegal. But we also consider that. In our program in Oklahoma City, we regularly have youth, usually 10 and older, who are charged or adjudicated with sex crime in Oklahoma, and those can be treated successfully in this model. Like sexual behavior are very, very diverse. You could not pick out in our waiting room who's there because they penetrated anally or vaginally a sibling, who's there because they are getting trauma therapy for a weather-related disaster or sexual abuse experience, versus there maybe for treatment for autism spectrum disorder or ADHD. They come from all backgrounds, all walks of life. Boys and girls both engage in these kinds of behaviors, and within this age range of 7 to 12, younger children are more likely to be female with problematic sexual behavior. The older they get, that switches to male, but both boys and girls engage in problematic behaviors, including sexual behaviors. Some with co-occurring concerns, like an externalizing or internalizing disorder. Not every child will have experienced a trauma, but do, and that may be contributing to their sexual behavior or not. Developmental delays, language and learning delays are also more at risk for having a problematic sexual behavior, and so those children in therapy as well. But any kind of therapy program would have, you see typical children from across a wide range of backgrounds and needs. It's not that different in the world of PSB. So where does come from? A historic assumption is that children with problematic sexual behavior have been abused, and that's how they learned it. What we know in the research, though, is that most children who have problematic sexual behaviors have not been abused. So, a number of factors that come together could contribute to a child's ability to or difficulty to make good choices around their behavior. Sexual abuse certainly puts children more at risk for developing PSB, but so it could be exposure to adult sexual activity, or nowadays exposure to highly sexualized media such as pornography. Impulse control problems just inherently, or they have some other type of delay or disability which it is difficult for them to cope or express themselves, and so they act out in a variety of ways, including sexual behaviors. Some come from families where caregivers are struggling to make ends meet or are distracted from their parenting for a variety of reasons. There are parental mental health issues, multiple jobs to keep the lights on, and therefore it leads to unintended environment in which children may have more difficulty making safe choices about their own behavior. So blaming a caregiver, but just looking at the ecology around a child and what impact them to follow rules or not follow rules. Only though, to me, children come from homes or environments where there is violence or aggression, domestic violence, harsh physical discipline, community violence, these tend to be more at risk for developing problematic sexual behavior. In some cases, it could be a combination of different things happening in the child's life. Others, I think sometimes it's just a bad choice in the moment that was a serious bad choice about a behavior. Also, we don't have to know what causes a problematic sexual behavior in order to stop it and keep it from recurring in the future. So the available data on how many children are out there. This is in the United States. About a third are committed by minors, so 18 and under. That doesn't give us a ton of information about children ages 7 to 12, but sexual offenses are committed by youth, against other youth. And advocacy centers and their data reporting to the National Children's Alliance report that about a quarter of cases that come through CACs are child-initiated sexual behaviors against other children. So we know that these kids are out there, and nationally and locally, they're getting more attention. People want to know how to best help these kids so we can end sexual abuse, so we can end that families experience. So does therapy work? Barbara Bonner, a psychologist here in our center in the 90s, created a 12-session cognitive behavioral therapy program, a group therapy program for children, and a separate group for their caregivers. She, at the time, had a dynamic play therapy group for children and a separate group for their caregivers, and she said treatment worked. Chelsky and others, a 10-year follow-up on the original group of kids, that archival data from juvenile justice, the adult justice system, and the Department of Human Services in Oklahoma determined how many of these kids were reported again in there for another problematic sexual behavior. So what they found was that children that completed the 12-session cognitive behavioral therapy group, over years, only 3% of those children were reported for their problematic sexual behavior. That means that 98% over 10 years maintained treatment gains. They didn't have another problematic sexual behavior. That is truly significant. Kids Dynamic Play Therapy Program, 9% of those kids did not go on to have another PSB over 10 years. The second difference between 98% and 89%. And the reason we think the dynamic play therapy group intervention was effective as it is, there were some caregivers in their group that wanted to talk about their child's behavior and to stop it. Whereas the cognitive behavioral therapy group, every session focused on how do we help children not continue to have these behaviors? How do we prevent them from these behaviors? So a 10-year follow-up also looked at a comparison group of kids that were at the same time as the original group. There were children that had a disruptive behavior disorder, but no known problematic sexual behavior. So kids with CBT over 10 years, 2% had a recurrence of PSB. Children no known history of PSB over the course of 10 years. 3 of those children went on to have a PSB that was reported to the authorities. Since kids that got the 12-session cognitive behavioral therapy treatment over was no different than the general population of kids. That's the assumption we can make here. So treat highly effective cognitive behavioral therapy of the care involvement with key. So there's from the 10-year follow-up study want to know what about therapy made it effective. And what they found in a meta-analysis published in 2008 is having caregivers involved in therapy was a magic. Absolutely hands down. Working with them in therapy to learn how to enhance and strengthen parenting skills and the management skills of their children. That also occurred with working with caregivers to teach sexual behavior rules and rules around boundaries and privacy, abuse of children, and caregivers to understand what was developmentally normal and development for their children and share their values with their children around sex education. important clinical component was teaching them impulse control skills, how to manage their own behaviors. The message found that elements from adult sex offender were not at all helpful, in many cases harmful. So focus on treating a behavior problem in children and treating them like children with caregiver involvement is key. To the University of Oklahoma PSB Cognitive Behavioral Therapy Model. For Barbara Bonner, along with Eugene Walker, who is also faculty here at the Health Sciences Center, and Lucy Berliner, who is a licensed clinical social worker up in the Pacific Northwest, who is well known for her work in child sexual abuse. They developed the original 12-session PSCBT model. This was nationally recognized. Office of Juvenile Justice and Delinquency Prevention, the National Child Traumatic Stress Network, and the California Evidence-Based Clearinghouse for Child Welfare as being evidence-based treatment for children ages 7 to 12 with problematic sexual behavior. It is key in orientation fits with boys and girls in co-ed groups as well as in family therapy. Outpatient treatment that generally takes most families 4.5 to 6 months to complete. So term, available in group or modality, the key is that caregivers must participate. This is really very characteristic of cognitive behavioral therapy. It is directive, it's agenda-driven, so we know every session what we're doing. Teaching basic affective concepts like feelings, vocabulary, and breathing for calming skills, to cognitive coping skills. Manual includes all of the sessions for child and caregiver work. It is treatment that directly addresses problematic sexual behavior, so no one is beating around the bush, but to kids about their choices around behavior and how to apply CBT-based skills to their behavior to prevent recurrence. Now, there's about 18 sessions-ish for most families. Out of that, we might talk directly about a kid's problematic sexual behavior maybe 4 or 5 times. So it's a strong focus every session on what they did, but so helping them to learn coping skills and then go back and apply it to their behavior. For the it tends to be more psychoeducational, but still is a CBT group. And it allows for time for caregivers and children to be together, to engage in treatment objectives as a family, and then homework that takes about 5 or less for families to complete. This range from teaching sexual behavior rules to children and caregivers, to cognitive behavioral therapy skills like thought, feelings, and behaviors. We work on social skills, abuse prevention, and sex ed. And then for children, they work on moral development, understanding their behavior and the impact it had on others. Caregivers get the same information, but that's also being peppered in with behavior parent training or enhancing parental behavior management strategies. The group is the primary delivery of the treatment. It is open group design, so families can join at any time. So in Oklahoma City, we have our groups on Monday. We have every Monday of the year except for holidays, weather closings, etc. We want families to join at sex education. Imagine that Oklahoma is fairly conservative, and first session is on puberty or functions of genitals. It's a little overwhelming, and those families tend to struggle to come back. There are strategies that we have in place to help families, if they are at that point of sex education, to join us at treatment, and then we bring them in right after we're done. Having group design is beneficial for a couple of reasons. One, it reduces the need for a wait list. We have up to 8 family or 8 children per group. It also allows for there to be senior members of the group that can to help mentor, guide, and support new families to the treatment program. allows for children to really benefit from social dynamics of the group and hear from their peers in ways that hold them accountable for their behavior, but also support them they make good choices. Second hour, we about 4 years ago, switched to a 90-minute session. For 20 plus years, we did this group treatment in 1 hour. So there's some flexibility there. The own manual, it's the same content as the group modality, but structured just a little different. Here can typically complete treatment in about 4 to 5 months. Again, are still 60 to 90 minutes, depending on the therapist and the family. But sessions are going to be caregiver only. They should be psychoeducational, so talking about supervision, social development in children. You need the child there. Caregiver comes in to get that information on their own. Some sessions are a combination of time with a caregiver, time with child, and time with both together. Family modality may be more appropriate for families that have a higher level of need or wouldn't otherwise be appropriate for a group modality. Some of these are small enough that they may not have enough therapists in their organization or may not have a ton of referrals, and so the family modality might make more sense for those organizations. For group modality, they can easily do family. Those are trained to do the family modality with just extra support from our team could upgrade, for lack of a better term, to doing a group. So once you're trained in the model, the delivery through modality, groups of family can easily be done and switch between. Actual Oklahoma Learning Collaborative for a PSB CBT. I used to train in this model 4.5 days straight, provide a little bit of consultation. And what we found is that some really struggled to sustain the program, to get kids in the door in that model. We were funded a number of years ago to do some research around our standard training versus the Learning Collaborative model, and fell in love with the Learning Collaborative model. It really allows for there to be a structure to the training that helps to provide incremental training, so sites have more opportunities and better opportunities to recruit families, assess families, and then treat families and keep that going long term. Some of you on the call may have been involved in other learning collaboratives, maybe on trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy or other evidence-based treatments. So the experience is a little similar for this project. Part of the collaborative structure this sentence that's on the screen now, that carefully selected practitioners receiving coordinated training, coach, and frequent performance assessment, that leads to successful implementation of evidence-based treatment. What does that mean? It's that there is an application process to participate in the Learning Collaborative where we review some applications from the agencies, the providers, and they're selected live trainings, regular consultation calls, regular fidelity monitoring and support, and successful implementation. So really it tends to be a high level of training and technical assistance than most people are known to receive. If you're not careful, we're going to get to be so close, I may show up at your house for Sunday dinner, or I may ask for space in your site to come do some work, because we work closely with our trainees throughout the process. Are successful for program implementation are around the development of infrastructure that I mentioned earlier and really close working relationship. We have the full team in your site involved in this process, and we include community partners and have things on board. Also looking at different ways of sustaining a program financially. While DHS is providing this training for free, you will need support to keep it going after the training project is done. And part of the work we do in the Learning Collaborative is start that process immediately to help senior leaders be successful. Collaborative launch period starts with this call today. We'll release applications at the information call, and there's the review, the application review and selection process, and move into a perk phase for sites that will participate. Model, there are, beyond the application selections and rework activities, 3 learning sessions that are live trainings that will be here in Oklahoma City. In each learning session is an action period. So there are benchmarks set for teams to achieve, and we'll talk through that in the next handful of slides. Package for this particular learning collaborative in a bit. This collaborative will take about 12 months to complete. So participating sites will be involved with us for 1 year. It includes 3 learning sessions. Learning Session 1 focuses on the reach and background on the population, as well as evidence-based clinical assessment of children with problematic sexual behavior. You'll set dates for these later. They are documented. Learning Session 1 is going to be May 4th and 5th in Oklahoma City. Learning 2 focus on the clinical model, so treatment. It is 2.5 days long or 3 days long. It's going toward the end of May, the 22nd through 24th. 3 is unique in that it is an advanced training or booster training for sites, and there are no set agenda topics for it. And so we work with sites to identify areas where they want additional training. It could be around safety planning, visitation, and reunification, care engagement. Sometimes we are asked to talk about unique sexual behaviors, such as what do when children have sexual behavior with animals, or engaging in high levels of sexual behaviors online. So collaboratively with sites, their senior leaders, clinicians, we look through consultation notes and fidelity notes to determine that agenda. So it is individualized for the sites. Also included in this training package is fidelity monitoring of sessions, which we'll talk about in a moment. Leaders are required to participate. They also get training and technical assistance, and will be available and coming to communities across Oklahoma to do presentations for community partners, members, and stakeholders. A team has a minimum number to it. For those who are interested in doing the group treatment, which we highly encourage everyone to consider, the minimum is 4 clinicians, a clinical supervisor, and a leader. That can be the clinical supervisor and a clinician, and the same for the clinical supervisor. For the finality, you need at least 2 clinicians. You train more, but you need at least 2, a clinical supervisor and senior leader. Within an organization that have authority to make decisions about the program. People actively involved in making sure that referral processes are in place, that community partners are involved, who in the development of any kind of materials to market the program, people who are there that can help with its implementation. Leaders are required to participate in the live trainings. They also receive monthly consult calls. And ultimately are part of this network in Oklahoma of building capacity across the state, better respond to, treat, and manage these children and their families. So having administrators involved brings strength to this project. Having the clinicians there doing the treatment brings strength to this project. Having them all together realizes the entire approach. For this, an information guide. Some of you, hopefully all of you, received the information guide. We will make it available. It is a PDF, and basically is this information call, except with more details about the model, the training, etc. So we encourage you to look there for more information. There's an agency readiness guide that we developed. An agency readiness guide is something that will get to interested parties. It's intended to be an agency's self-assessment of where they're at for strengths and needs around treating kids with problematic sexual behavior. It's intended to be a use tool for an organization and should not be returned to us here at the Health Sciences Center or DHS. It is to help you plan for completing the organizational application and thinking about where you really are. So what supports will you need, how you can sustain strengths that you already have. There are topics in the agency readiness guide, everything from caregivers are currently participating in treatment services with your organization, basic logistics, long-term sustainability, etc. It is in a red, yellow, green system like a stoplight. And I want you all to know that you don't have to have all greens to be accepted, right? We don't see your ratings. We work with a number of sites that they have a lot of needs, but we're poised to take action. We had leaders and clinicians who were ready to get in and do the work that were successful in the Learning Collaborative. We've also people with a lot of green and a lot of strengths who also did very well. This agency readiness guide is to help you just understand where's your starting point, what's good about what you have already, and what are you going to need to move forward to be successful, and help you prepare for the Collaborative, prepare to complete the application, and get the right mindset to be this project. We also hire for community stakeholders, and community stakeholders are anyone that could be referring to your program or have an impact on your program. Local schools, other mental health agencies, the Department of Human Services, juvenile justice, it's out there. And so there is information that you can share with your community partners. These could be members of your own board of directors at your organization that they want to know a little bit more about what they're interested in doing. To say that once you throw the word sex in front of anything, it makes people very nervous. And so start talking about kids with problematic sexual behaviors coming into your agencies through your doors. Some people in your agency can get very anxious about that. And understanding that these are kids first who are highly amenable to treatment with tremendous success rates, short-term outpatient therapy. This helps people get on board and be able to quell fear that they may have. The application is several pages, but is intended for us just to have a better understanding of your organization, who's going to be involved, what programs do you have, your experience with using psychological measures or instruments, etc. An AC application is something that we comb through. We will follow up with additional questions, and it will help us make informed decisions about the 4 sites that we'll choose to participate in this Learning Collaborative. Likewise, a provider application, so we know about the people you intend to have involved in the PSB project. What's with evidence-based treatment? Are they licensed or not? What's the level of comfort talking about sex and sexuality? Again, a provider application just helps us to better know your team to make an informed choice moving forward. Training on what's involved in the actual year is that we have the applications in place. And sites who are selected, everyone receives a 16-question true-false pretest. There's a test that is administered after the end of learning session 1, and we're just looking to see what your knowledge change. We have participants to watch a PSB video learning series through the National Children's Alliance. It is free video experience. You can watch as a group or individually. You can watch with your community members. Everyone gets a certificate of attendance at the end. You can complete some short quizzes, like 8-question quizzes in between 4 segments, and overall evaluation to get that certificate. Also, we'll have to complete a minimum the online introductory training to trauma-focused cognitive behavioral therapy. I dare say that probably almost everyone in Oklahoma is trained in TFCBT. You know this, but Oklahoma has more nationally certified TFCBT providers than any state in the union. That is really amazing for us. For that are nationally certified or have attended a live training, they can substitute that certificate of completing or attendance instead of having to go back and do the online intro training. So by the time you do live training in TFCBT or certified, you've done the online training. We're training people to do TFCBT for problematic sexual behavior, but find that having some base knowledge about TFCBT, in particular cognitive behavioral therapy skills, is real strength to providing treatment overall, being informed, etc. Have to participate in all 3 learning sessions. Know that there's going to be staff turnover, and so we can help get staff up to date through learning session 2. If there's turnover before then, and after that, we'd really need to have conversations with senior leaders. Leaders are required to participate in all 3 learning sessions. For those that are doing the group modality, they provide the treatment for at least a year with a minimum of 4 families. Also participate in the caregiver group and switch and participate in the child group. For the modality, they have complete treatment with 2 different families in 6 months. So only what we want, if you're trained to do the model, the treatment, is that we're actually doing it and practicing it and getting experience with it. So that's where these clinical experience requirements come from. We want anyone doing the treatment is implementing the model with fidelity and appropriate conceptualization. And send back to the research and the evidence and using that to inform your conceptualization of these youth, their child victims, and their families. We want people participating in clinical consultation calls, which are happening twice a month, and specific to this project. So call groups where the sites will be split in half months for the course of the training. There's fidelity monitoring. We require that clinicians record therapy sessions and submit to us through an encrypted platform provided by the University of Oklahoma. We review a number of caregiver and child sessions from the group modality or family therapy sessions, people for fidelity criteria. Are actually doing the model with integrity to model. What we heard from sites across the country, so 50 other communities from their clinicians, is that being able to submit recordings and someone provide them with detailed feedback on how well they're doing or where they could make some enhancements, very valuable to their learning and implementation of the model. We'll be monitoring over the course of consultation calls, ability to accurately assess a child's progress in treatment, and we strongly encourage sites to use psychological measures to help with the assessment process. So maybe the child sexual behavior inventory, the BEST or CBCL, the TSCC. There are a number of measures out there can be used, and we'll talk more about on future calls. Agency to the referral population, ages 7 to 12 for this project, and really make that available to their clinicians. Also allowing their clinicians the time to participate in the live trainings, the consultations, and other training activities. Appropriate clinical space for if you're doing group, enough space to children's group and a concurrent caregivers group, and have those rooms large enough to hold everybody. Supplies for Learning Collaborative that will give into the participating sites. So you'll just need space to store those supplies and any other treatment materials or assessment materials that you have. So you need the ability to preferably video record therapy sessions and upload those sessions via net to a secure platform. Now I think I mentioned several times that the Department of Human Services is funding this learning collaborative. So the training and technical assistance costs are paid by DHS. DHS will contract with individual sites for the collaborative. But there is expectation that if you're going to be a part of this learning collaborative, that your site complete all the training requirements, that you actually start seeing kids. Remember, the group modality, you're looking at 4 families through completion, and modality, 2 families per clinician. Sites that don't complete training requirements, that result in reimbursing DHS the cost of training. The cost is $5,500 per clinician and $1,750 per senior leader. So this is intended to set expectation, to work hard so that we can better help children in Oklahoma not continue to have PSB, not continue to harm other children. Freeing, we want everyone to give it an earnest go and make this happen. And costs for the agency. Agencies would be required to for transportation, lodging, et cetera, to and from Oklahoma City for the 3 learning sessions, and allow staff the time, materials, et cetera, to do assessments, to do treatment, et cetera. Some other costs are carving out time for people to complete the pre-work activities, participate in the bi-monthly or bi-monthly consultation calls and senior leaders' monthly consultation calls. Encourage having someone who can be a program coordinator, having staff meetings for the program, et cetera. So thinking about who can do that work and ensure that there is time allocated for the program to come together. Received a chat about the 3rd learning session, so I'm getting ready to give that information now. So here are the key project dates. The information call and application release date are today. The information call will be made available as a recording within the next week, so it will be available to other people who may not have been able to make it on this call. Applicants are due by February 28th, so about 1 month for seniors to complete the agency application, and so along with the provider applications for patients who are going to participate in the project. Once our team reviews it, we work with the Department of Human Services, and we'll start selections on March 8th. So a couple weeks or so or less from due date in late February. We will, on March 15th, that's right, the Ides of March, so watch out Julius Caesar, and a kickoff call to talk more about the project and next steps. And from there, the 3 sessions, again, session 1, April 4th through 5th, learning 2, May 22nd through 24th, and learning session 3, November 21st through 22nd. Typically from 9 a.m. to 5 p.m., the length of training for the 3 learning sessions typically ends by 3:30 to allow people to get home and not have to stay another night in Oklahoma City potentially. There we have it. The dates. Applications are due by February 28th. We'll make announcements on March 8th. The kickoff call March 15th. And 1, 2, and 3 in April and late November. End of our hour today. Going to slowly unmute people in case there are any questions. I'm going to keep unmuting Carrie Schwab. She's going to kill me. So I'm unmuting people now. If you have questions, great time for it. Mindy Hutchinson, you were still on mute. I was hearing a little background noise, but you can unmute yourself to the far right of your name. So what questions do people have, if any?
I have one question, please.
Yep.
Are there limitations to the number of clinicians that can include in our application?
And really, there's not a limitation to that. Remember, if you're doing the group, 4 is the minimum. That's a good number, but you could certainly train more, as well as the family modality. Be training, if you're an organization that has multiple satellites, offices across the state, we're looking at training in the 4 quadrants of the state. And so if you're a site that's maybe selected for the Northeast quadrant, we would want to have clinicians in that area to train to do the work. Thank you for the
this is Kim and I just wanted to clarify that you're only going to select 4 options, basically, and does that exclude the Oklahoma City area? Because you said that you all cover the Oklahoma City area, so.
Correct. Funding for this project allows us to train 4 sites in Oklahoma, and we are wanting to build a network across the state of Oklahoma. Since our program is located in Oklahoma City, we are looking to expand into other areas of Oklahoma where there are not PSB programs. So we're looking at the northeast, northwest, southeast, and southwest corners of the state.
That clarifies it. Thank you.
You're welcome. Questions, I'm just going to hit to the next slide so you have time to write down an email address. Carrie Schwab, who is our TNCA program coordinator, can be reached at the email ou-ypsb@uhsc.edu, u-esb as in youth with problematic sexual behavior at uhsc.edu. Additional questions, you can email that address, and Carrie will respond or forward to me for a response. That we get out throughout the state the information guide, applicants, and the availability of this information call. For really anyone who's interested in the training, for maybe Oklahoma City, know that while we're looking at the 4 corners of the state, part of the project will involve providing ongoing presentations and mini trainings to sites so that everyone is informed of the research and evidence of the treatment. And our goal is hopefully long-term, beyond this particular project, that will to continue to increase capacity in Oklahoma to provide the evidence-based treatment. Being on the call today, it takes all of us to do this work to make things better for children in Oklahoma and across the United States. And are very excited and happy to certainly be able to do this work in Oklahoma. We again are very appreciative of the Department of Human Services and Kayla Wilson and her colleagues for making this possible. Any questions in the last couple of minutes, I am available. Otherwise, you will be receiving information from us. Probably encourage everyone on the call to go ahead and email Carrie Schwab at ou-ypsb@ohsc.edu. We can make sure we get to you. Definitely the information guide, if you have it, the ACA and provider applications, make a connection with you. Any thoughts to wrap it up? Well, I'll leave my favorite joke. 2 people are walking in a bad neighborhood. One tilted. Thankfully, I'm mute so I can't hear the groans or the laughter. Being on the call today, and we look forward to hearing from you very soon. Take care and bye-bye.
Thank you.
Thank
Thank you.